Hello guys, this is Terry from Genki Gaming, and we are here with another One Piece theory discussion, brought to you by the Island FM. And this theory happens to be on a newly introduced character, Cracker, or Charlotte Cracker. His effigy is Thousand Arms Cracker. He is the 10th son of the Charlotte family. His current bounty is 860 million belly, and he's one of the 3 sweet commanders. And his role is Minister of Biscuits. And the reason why I'm making this discussion instead of one of the Whitebeard Commander discussions I'm working on is because I've seen on certain forums, like the Oro Jackson forum, that people are trying to power scale this guy, saying that he is too strong or he is too weak. And I didn't really agree or disagree with them. I think that all Yonko commanders are within the same tier of power. They just have different strengths and weaknesses. Cracker is very unique. One of the wikis classifies him as a tall human, but I'm closer to the point of considering him potentially being either a really, really tall human or a small giant. But then again, he might just be a tall human. We haven't got his race classification. He has a shield made out of like a biscuit or a cracker, and his sword is called Pretzel, and he claims that it's a very unique sword. It's actually I think it's like a double-bladed longsword. At least that's how it looks in the pictures I've seen. And this is just like a generalized discussion, just due to the fact that there's so many people on different forums just claiming he's too strong, or he's weak since he was knocked over by the King Kong gun, or just by the Kong gun itself. But he was easily able to block Hawk Gatling and Elephant gun, something that Dofi just took on face value, because Dofi could basically repair himself with his devil fruit. Hawk gun, I mean, Kong gun or Kong rifle didn't really seem to cause much of an effect on Cracker. It made him get knocked over and also made him spit up a little bit of blood, but it did not knock him unconscious like some people thought. It seems like he is going to get back up. If I had to classify him on any sort of tier, since he is one of the 3 commanders, or one of the 3 sweet commanders for Big Mom, I would put him on the same tier as Jack, where the Yonkos, like, top 3 or 5 people are above Shishibukai level. But then we have to take into the account the Admiral level and all of that, because commanders have been seen clashing with admirals and vice admirals in the series thus far. Marco's couple small clashes with Kizaru makes me believe that Yonko commanders are just below if I had to do any power scaling. I really feel like it's going to take 2 people to take Cracker down, since he is a commander. Then again, we truly don't know the power scaling of Luffy. All we know is that Gear 4 is time dependent, and Cracker seems to have a lot of endurance, so that makes me very suspicious that he can outlast Gear 4, causing Luffy to shrink down into that Chibi Luffy form. And to follow up this theory discussion, Cracker might be based off of a Japanese song called Magical Pocket. It talks about having 1 biscuit in a jacket pocket, and then you tap on it, it becomes 2. Then tap on it again, it becomes 3. And tapping more makes there become more biscuits. That could partially be what he's based off of. I also think there's a good chance that he is partially based off of the Hecaton here. It's from Greek mythology. It's basically a giant with 100 arms and 50 heads, but that could be a parody between certain myths within Greek mythology. And these Hecaton hairs are the children of Gaia and Uranus. Gaia could be Big Mom. Uranus could be obviously Cracker's father. But the story from Greek mythology shows that Uranus basically shunned his 3 children that became like this and threw them into the depths of Tartarus. But as we can see, Cracker's perfectly fine. He fits in with his sibling, Brule, or I don't remember how to pronounce her name, the Mirror Lady. But basically, to follow things up here, this is going to be a relatively short theory. I think Cracker is strong enough to deem having a second person fight him, because in all of the Yonko Commander fights that we've seen so far, with the exception of Marco and Marine Ford, because that was just a free-for-all if you want to think about it. But Jack took on both Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. Both of them, Luffy said, was really strong. I have a gut feeling that Jinbei is going to end up in the forest and help Luffy out during this fight. But that's truly my only gut feeling. Either that or Jinbei is off saving Peckham's. But that's another thought for another day. We're going to talk about Cracker's moves and abilities here real quick. I think he has an ability called Hard Biscuit, where he makes copies of his shield, then reinforces them with armament hockey, and then slams them down onto his opponent. And then his sword Pretzel, which I mentioned earlier as being a unique sword, he has an ability called Roll Pretzel, where he imbues the sword with hockey and then stabs at his opponents. And I think speed-wise, he's able to keep up with Gear 2. He just seems like a all-around fighter. He also took down Uruj after Uruj took down one of the Sweet Commanders, which makes me think that Luffy could potentially be okay in the fight. But from what we've seen thus far in the series, it seems like there's been 2 people to fight Yonko Commanders, which would make some sense here in the beginning of the Yonko saga. And then when Luffy and the Alliance finally fights Blackbeard or Shanks, it will be one-on-one fights. I think here in the beginning it's important to establish the power of these commanders and the Yonko themselves. I'm not saying Luffy's weak or Cracker's overpowered at this point. I'm just saying they're on slightly different tiers, that they're relatively close power-wise. But with looking at Luffy's bounty and comparing it to Cracker's bounty, that would cause his bounty to jump up an enormous amount if he takes him down. But I suspect that that won't happen due to Luffy's time limit with Gear 4 unless there's another phase of Gear 4. As for Cracker, I don't think we've seen his true power yet. I think he's just been casually toying with Luffy, kind of like how Jack seems to be the reason why Jack didn't have to go into hybrid form to deal with Inu and Neko, because he could easily handle them in either human form or mammoth form or beast form, if you want to call it that. I think Cracker is going to have some unique abilities, and I think that his tapping ability or his multiplying ability doesn't just go for his arms or for his weapons, that he can actually multiply his legs, allowing him to gain more stability while fighting. And he could possibly be able to multiply allies' limbs and allies' weapons, but we don't know that yet. We don't even know if his double fruit is awakened or not. And this would be another really great chance for Oda to display awakened paramecia, like what he did with Don Flamingo or Dofi, however you want to call him. But overall, I think Cracker is going to be a strong opponent here. I think he'll eventually be overcome by the Straw Hats. And depending upon how the arc plays out, the Big Mom Pirates could potentially become allies, which would play an interesting twist to some of the things that Cracker said to Luffy. Like him saying that Sanji would consider the Straw Hats dirt and to tell them to go get lost. So thus far, what we can confirm here is he has very strong armament hockey. It seems like it's the strongest that Luffy's seen, because Luffy wouldn't normally mention something like that, just like how he mentions that Fujitora, Nekomamushi, that they were both very strong or are very strong. So, thus far, I would not consider Cracker a top tier, like a top tier competitor. I think he's going to be a very good opening opponent here in the arc, but I do think that Luffy may go back to Chibi Luffy form and may have a rematch with him later on within the arc. Because this fight's just warming up if you think about it. And I've been Terry from Geeky Gaming, and I'm out. You guys have a great morning, excellent afternoon, and great evening. You guys are awesome, amazing viewers. I'm out.